full freedom. If there was someone to tell the Americans they didn't have full freedom, then they would very quickly try and grasp it back, because that's the way that they've kept the Americans in place for a long time, is just sort of basically just saying, you guys have freedom, you've got freedom. And even the Second Amendment, in my opinion, is not being upheld properly. It's the right to have a well-oiled militia just in case your government turns tyrannical. The biggest weapon in my knowledge that you guys are allowed to own is in, I think it is in the bayous. In the bayou area, and it is a 40mm Orlecan Bofors 40mm autocannon. That's the biggest thing you can own, and it's an anti-aircraft gun. It's not that effective, and that's the most, like I say, it's the biggest thing you can own. But if the government turns tyrannical, you guys don't have the ability to own the weaponry of them whatsoever. So to me, the Second Amendment's even been revoked, almost, in a way. Not been revoked, but
it's been neutered.
Yes.
Right. So here's the deal. Like, they've admitted that they would not be able to take us. Like, if our government became tyrannical and tried to wipe us out of existence, we'd win. But they got their hands. And this is what I think is going on. I think they've been telling us global warming when really an ice age is coming, so to speak, in layman's terms. But it's a grand solar minimum. There's food shortages. If they could get us to go to war with each other first, they wouldn't have to go door to door confiscating guns. We would just wipe each other out.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. You have an ideological divide that you can create in your country that they, in my opinion, have sort of created through Marxism and all these diabolical and despicable, sort of manipulative systems that they can use, and are using them to their advantage massively. That I don't know if you've seen actually the documentary that's been put to light a lot more recently from the Call of Duty. They used it for a clip for Call of Duty. It's actually a crazy clip. It talks about it's actually a communist who's directly talking about the things that they're trying to push America into, that are like unavoidable. Very interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but there used to be this defective guy
That's him,
from
yeah.
the USSR, and he snuck out in India pretending to be a hippie. And then he was like warning us of all the things that the United States is going to go through because we're heading down the
Litvenko.
same road that they went through. I forget his name.
I can't remember if it's you're in the living. Wait there. Uriel
Yeah, that's it.
Belikov. Is it Belikov?
Yeah,
Uriel
yeah,
Belikov?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
the one about Yuri Belikov or whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
what I
should.
thought you were talking.
Yeah, because it's been given a little bit more light recently, because the Call of Duty, right? The new Call of Duty game, Cold War. They used the clip of the interview with him in it and made it like black and white and stuff. Belikov.
Yeah, he basically told it like it is. He's like, "This is what you're doing
Yeah.
if you don't turn this around." And this was in the '80s. Like, he was giving these interviews. I think
Yep.
like the early '80s, if I'm not mistaken. And when he was giving these interviews, I'm sitting there watching him like, "Oh man, this is exactly what's going on." And if you
Yeah.
read, was it the Learned Elder Scrolls of Zion? Like, if you read that, like, you can say that, oh, this is a straw man, this is not what they're saying, but when you look at what's actually going on in the United States and other parts of the world, like the West, it's exactly what's going on.
Yep. No,
You
it
think
is.
you think the scrolls of Zion is a real thing?
No, what I said was when you compare what's in the scrolls to what you see today in the United States and different parts of the West, it's exactly what's going on.
Right. So you think it's a real thing?
No, that doesn't mean the scrolls are real. What was apparently written in them, so what was ever devised and what was told to the people as apparently being in said scrolls, right, is actually very, very equivocal, or you could say similar to what is happening, right? Doesn't mean the point of origin was true. Doesn't mean the point of origin is correct. It could mean that from the perspective of when it was found, that it was written there and then, and that essentially now these things are similar. That's all. Much like the way
okay. I get it.
fictional writings, for instance, like let's say about like Game of Thrones or whatever, seems very similar to like Hadrian's Wall and Scotland and the Northmen and that, you know.
Right. So the fact that
Or
you
The
know
Empire Strikes Back resembles
Right.
a lot of what's going on in modern politics today. You know, George Lucas wasn't just making that shit up. Like, I think that he was kind of aware of what's going on in modern politics.
So why would you think something that you know is fiction or know is faked be important?
I don't know that it's fake.
Well, the other person just said it was. He knew it was.
No. So the claim is what's in the Elder Scrolls, the learned Elder Scrolls of Zion, is what is apparently happening today. Don't know if it's fake, don't know if it's real, not really willing to die on that hill, right? What we're saying is that that's what's happening today, what's written in that book.
Yeah, but it is faked. It's known to be like deliberately written propaganda.
Okay, so how do you know that it's fake?
Well, that's what the best evidence that you get when you look into it says.
Well, what about
Right.
the evidence that it's all happening? What about that evidence? Should we just sweep that under the rug?
Well, I would just count that as your paranoia. No, I'm serious. It's just you're projecting what you are afraid of, and looking in the world today and seeing and finding what it is you're looking for. I mean, you can do that with anything.
So
Yeah, it's like
culture
you.
Marxism.
Wait there. Sorry, Hank. I got to do this. Sorry. This is kind of like you asserting that speed limits are physical, because that way, if you assert a concept as physical, the concept of gravity, for instance, can be something that's real, right?
Yeah, gravity is real.
As asserted by you, because speed limits are physical, so therefore the concept of gravity can be physical in your mind.
I don't
You
know
see
what
that
I don't.
little confirmation bias you've got there? That little like
I
ring
don't
around the rosy
understand.
you have to do?
No, I'm
Yeah.
genuinely not understanding the connection with speed limits. I don't know what connection you're making.
Alright.
Speed limits are real and they're created by laws, right? In the government.
Maybe it wasn't you that said it. Maybe it wasn't you that said it.
But a speed limit
Speed
is
limits are not laws. Mm-mm.
yeah, they are.
No, speed
They're
limit isn't
laws
Are
a
you
that
telling
law.
me? Are you telling me a good judge, an honorable judge, doesn't know the difference between a statute and a law?
well, I don't know that those differences. It's real in the sense that if you break it, the police will very likely give you a fine for speeding, right?
Well, no, we claimed that it was physical. That was what I said, not that it's real
Well, I
or
don't
if
know
it
that it's
exists.
physical. I mean, I don't know
Well,
that it's
maybe I'm
physical.
getting the claim wrong, you know.
It's
Much
created
like,
by
I'm just saying.
people. It's created by people. I mean, it's written down in the statutes and it's enforced by the police, right? But that's different than the law of gravity.
Don't worry, you don't understand what I was trying to say,
Okay,
Brenda.
right. So you can break the speed limit.
No,
Right.
Brenda, my point was that you have a confirmation bias that once or twice you've asserted certain things as being physical when they're not, when they're concepts. And the point is that you have to go down that way of thinking because you have to project that thought process out. Why? Because you believe that there's a real thing called gravity, which is a conflation of cause and effect. You know, it's the effect we see, and it's also the cause. But you have to assert certain things as something like physicality. You'd have to ascribe physicality, for instance, to like space, right? You would say space is physical. Okay.
Right.
Um,
So I don't think that gravity is the effect and the cause. Gravity is caused by mass bending space and time, right? And then that causes things to move
so wait
towards
there.
each
What
other.
caused the fabric of space to bend?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So you don't know the cause and effect relationship for gravity.
Well, there's a cause and effect relationship. We just don't know what the
The
underlying
cause of
cause
the
is.
effect.
We don't
You
know
don't know
what
the
the
cause of the effect.
no. We know
Right.
the
So,
cause. Mass causes space to bend, but we don't know
but
how. We
can
don't
you
know
prove
how.
that? But how? This is what I just said. You have to ascribe physical properties to things, right? Bending space, dilation of time. These are things that, listen, these are things, right, that are not physical. You cannot prove that they have been
They are physical
bent
though.
or
They,
warped.
yeah, but
Listen, you said a
we
minute,
can
listen,
prove it though.
space is not being bent,
But
right?
it
You
is.
can. No, but it's not. It's
But
not. It's
yeah,
not.
but
You're ascribing a physical quality
well,
to a
then
concept,
how come
Brenda.
space gets bent then? If it can't happen, how does it happen that it is?
Oh no, I didn't say it can't happen. Remember, listen to what I'm saying carefully. That you cannot prove that it is happening, and that you are attaching physical attributes, right,
I
to
understand.
a concept that is unphysical. And this is the way of your circular reasoning that the concept of gravity, which is also unphysical, somehow is made physical by your assertion that other things that are non-physical are somehow physical.
Yeah, you're just wrong. It has been proven to be real. It has been proven to
How?
distort space and time. I
How?
know that
Oh,
you don't
wow.
believe that. I understand that. That's okay. You
How?
don't
How?
believe it, but
How?
there have been hundreds of experiments showing that relativity is
The
true.
effect. The effect. So when you
You
drop the
mean the
pen, you
the
see it
effect
fall. That's
is
the effect.
the
What's the
effect is
cause?
the
Experiments show. What are experiments? To test a hypothesis, right?
right. Well,
Right.
one of the more recent ones
So,
is gravitational redshift is more recently in the news.
oh, well done.
Yeah, that was in the news. It's predicted by relativity, and it's been confirmed.
Brenda, you
I
see
know.
something, doesn't prove shit.
Well, these are experiments. They're not seeing things.
All right. So, what's the independent variable for redshift?
The frequency of the light. It
All right.
varies.
So, what is your naturally observed phenomenon? Oh, wait, it's not an experiment, is it? Because you already did what?
I think I might have that backwards. Maybe
Yeah, I
the
think you
observed
do, don't
phenomenon.
you?
Well, it doesn't matter. The observed phenomenon is that people observe um, light being redshift, right? And then they can see that it's due to gravity acting in a way to redshift that light instead of the usual way.
Oh, so you're using gravity as a way to redshift the light when you have no way of proving gravity with a independent variable in the first place to be able to assert it as something concrete that you can apparently manipulate here for this thing. You have to assume that gravity is bending the thing to cause the effect of the redshift, don't
No,
you, Brenda?
no, we don't have to assume gravity. Gravity is a naturally observed phenomenon.
No, but this was your original proof for how you could prove gravity, but you've got to reify gravity to make this proof valid. So then I would say, right, remove the redshift. How did you actually prove that gravity even exists? You can't say it's the naturally observed phenomena, right? You can't
It
say that.
is.
So therefore, your
I
naturally
can.
observed phenomena is gravity.
So
What's the independent variable?
to begin with, this was about showing that space-time was being bent, and now you've shifted it to gravity.
Yeah, and you had to use gravity. You had to use, as your independent variable, you use gravity bending, okay, which is nonsensical at best. You had to use gravity bending. Bear in mind, you were trying to prove gravity with this
No, I wasn't
redshift.
trying to prove
That was an
gravity with-
experiment that you... Shut up, Brenda. This is being taped, right? You stated, did you not,
fine.
that
I'm fine with it being
redshift
taped.
proves gravity. That it's been experimentation has been done on it, and it proves gravity.
No, I wasn't saying it proves
someone?
gravity.
All right, I'm asking the room. Did Brenda, yes or no, say that shit? If anyone's
I heard
listening.
redshift.
It was about redshift and showing that space-time can be bent. I wasn't trying to prove gravity. We already know that gravity exists.
But why did I ask you to talk about redshift? Why did I ask you?
I brought up.
I said
I
that
brought it up.
Listen, yeah. I said, what were the proofs of gravity? Show me one. And you said, well, the most recent one in the news, right, that proves gravity, also proves the bending in space of time, right?
No. That wasn't about
It's
proving
redshift.
gravity. That was about proving that space-time
Well,
can
this
be
is why I'm
bent.
asking you. Right, it doesn't matter, does it, Brenda? Because it's on the face
Yes,
of
it
it.
matters.
You had to say that gravity... Wait there, I'm not finished. You had to say that gravity is the cause of the bending of space-time in order to
Yes.
prove the effect of the redshift, right? My point, again, is first, to invoke gravity, you're going to have to prove that this is something that you can equivocate as actually solid and valid first, before you can invoke it in a format of an experiment, right?
We know that
So
gravity. We
you
already
first
know
have to
that gravity.
prove gravity to me.
We know that gravity exists already. So it's a prediction of relativity that that under Einstein's formulas, light could be redshifted by gravity. That's not a proof of gravity. That assumes that we already know that gravity is real, because we do.
Yeah,
It
is. You're right. It's an assumption at best.
No,
Yeah.
it's because science builds on past knowledge. So we already know that gravity exists.
Yeah,
Newton,
so show me that gravity exists.
Newton
Wait,
and
didn't you
Einstein both knew that gravity existed.
Didn't you say that we didn't know the cause of gravity?
Yes,
Yeah, so now you say we know it's real, but
yes. That's not a contradiction.
It
it
is.
is.
You can
I
know that
think it
something
is.
is real without knowing why
Brenda,
it happens.
Past statement by you. Gravity has been proven with multiple experiments before.
No, that's not what I said.
How can you
I was talking about
experiments show
space-time.
what? They validify the hypothesis. They show the cause and effect relationship.
Of what?
Of anything that you're experimenting on.
In the case of
So-
gravitational redshift, that's an observation they made recently. It was in the science news.
Listen, Brenda.
As far as gravity goes, we've known
You're
that for
invoking
hundreds of years.
gravity. You're invoking gravity
Yes.
in your formula of the
Yes.
scientific method for the
Yes.
redshift. So I've got to take you back a step. Prove the gravity first, bitch. You know what I mean?
Gravity is an observed phenomenon. Everybody observes it. It is the phenomenon that we
Well
observe.
done.
No.
Yes.
That's what you call. That is what you attribute the word gravity. You attribute that word to the phenomena we see of things falling
Yes.
after we put energy into
Yes.
them.
Yes,
when they
that's what-
fall, when we let go of them.
Yes. That's
Right?
correct. That is correct. That's what all humans
That is
have
the
thought for
effect.
thousands of years. Yes.
And you said gravity has got many experiments that prove its existence. I'm asking
No.
you to show me one, because you can you? Because you cannot show me the cause and effect relationship.
We don't have to prove its existence. It's observed. Everybody
No.
knows it exists.
Listen, gravity.
You know it
no,
exists.
listen. We could agree. We could agree that there is on average, 9.8 meters per second squared law of things falling toward the ground. Issue is gravity is ascribed to many, many more things than just this average rate of fall, right? There are many claims about gravity, okay? It isn't just things falling, it's also things rising up to the thing that is falling. This is mass attracting mass. This is also other Einsteinian equations that apparently, worked upon and actually broke down some of the Newtonian laws. So gravity isn't just equivocated as one thing, Brenda.
No, it
So
actually is.
thus,
It's one
you can
thing.
say a descriptor. Gravity isn't proved by us observing things
Sure it
fall.
is.
Gravity to be proved would have to also adhere to the other claims about it. I would just say that things fall when we let them go. That doesn't prove anything about it. Proof is in the pudding, my friend. Proof is in the pudding.
So
It doesn't prove it. It is something you are choosing to call gravity. The things you're choosing to call this 9.8 meters per second gravity. That is all. You're choosing to call it. That doesn't prove its existence. There are other attributes
no,
attributed to it.
it's directly observed, so everybody knows it exists. You know it exists. You know that gravity exists.
Oh, do I directly observe the warping and bending of space-time?
No, you
Do I
directly
observe that?
You directly observe the phenomenon of things falling.
No,
You
I
observe
don't.
it. That is gravity.
No.
You
No,
don't observe
it
things
isn't.
falling?
No, I don't. Not for no reason anyway. They don't just pick themselves up and just fall. No.
No, I didn't
First,
say
I
that. I didn't
create
say
an
that. That's a
effect by
straw
causing
man.
it. Well,
That's a
I
straw
cause the
man.
effect by picking it up, right?
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
You don't
So
cause
do
things
things
to
fall when I
fall.
don't pick them up, Brenda? You think? Wait there. So if I just leave this lighter on my table, and just leave it to its merry being, does it fall?
It will if you remove the table.
Oh, if I remove the table, so would that be me doing something? Would that be me causing it to move?
You wouldn't be touching the lighter on your table at all.
What's that got to do with anything?
That shows that
What's that got to do with anything?
shows that
No, the
you doing
table
that
would no
shows that
longer
it
be
isn't
touching
you.
it. Listen. You need something to explain the objectional direction of down because you live on a spherical ball, right? You have no objective direction of down
What do you
because
mean?
things should fall
Yes, we
upwards,
do.
right? Things
Why
should
should they
fall
fall
sideways
upwards?
because you don't have. You need gravity to explain a singular vector towards the center. You need this thing to explain why
Well,
there is a vector toward
no,
down all the way
gravity
across the
just
face of a
is.
spherical ball.
Gravity just is that fact that things fall down. That's just what gravity is.
As asserted by you.
By everybody for centuries.
Right, and like I said, you said there are many experiments that prove gravity. You haven't given me
I didn't
one,
say
Brenda.
that. I said
You,
there are
you said it earlier. People can
experiments
rewind the tape back.
that show there are experiments that show various qualities of gravity, like it pulls at 9.2 meters per second. That all things fall at the
9.8.
same speed, right? All things,
Well, they actually don't, but
regardless of their density
listen, they don't actually
or
fall
mass, fall at the same speed.
do they?
That's an observed fact of gravity. And so what Newton did is he described gravity and how it worked by his laws. He came up with the laws of gravity, but as far as a theory of gravity, he didn't have one. And then Einstein came along and he created the theory of relativity, which in part explains gravity. And Einstein's theory has been shown to hold true in many experiments and observations.
Yeah, cool, Brenda. Do you really think that that you're sort of spitting gems of knowledge here that people haven't heard before? Like, at best,
that's fine.
You're talking from a fucking third grade understanding of what gravity and what relativity is. I'm not even going to tell you more about it because obviously it would just give you more bullshit about.
But you don't agree with. But you don't agree with that third grade telling.
Yeah, I don't agree with
gravity.
it because I understand it to a higher degree than you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Tell me to what higher degree you.
Why would I give you more rhetoric to spill, Brenda? How about you explain the axis of evil to me?
What does that have to do with gravity?
Oh, I don't care. I'm just changing the goalposts quickly. You haven't substantiated your claims at all about it. So, listen, you can't prove the cause or the effect. Shut up. You just asked me a question, right? You can't prove the cause and effect relationship of gravity. right? You started to claim about the warping and bending of space-time, you know, concepts that you're ascribing physical attributes to, which is illogical at best. But you invoke gravity as a form, as a way. You need that to prove the redshift for the experiment that you are laying out, which was nonsensical anyway. You know, naturally observed phenomena, the redshift, independent variable, gravity. You can't use a variable of gravity. The independent variable is the one you manipulate, Brenda. So you just said that you cannot prove the cause and effect relationship of gravity.
Well,
Thus, you can't equivocate it as anything
well, you
truthful or fully substantiated. So the point is if you can't manipulate the independent variable, right, you can't even manipulate your precursor of your independent variable. So you ain't going to be able to manipulate it as the independent variable to prove the redshift in the experimental foundation that we were running on. So it was nonsensical.
well,
So if I want to move
you
away
can
from your
manipulate.
nonsensical bullshit, I will.
You
Right?
you can manipulate the independent variable. You can do that.
You fucking can't. You just
Sure
admitted
can.
you can't.
The same way that you would manipulate the independent variable of, say, magnetism. By moving,
Non-sequitur. Just tell me how you're doing it
by moving the
in the
magnet
actual
closer
experiment.
or further away. In the redshift, whether if the
Well,
light is
just by doing
closer
that, when
or
it's going
further
to
away
the cause and effect
from the
relationship.
gravitation, the source of the gravity, it changes. So yes, you can manipulate the independent variable.
Is that you manipulating it, or is that you presupposing? Remember, Brenda, you have to prove the cause and effect relationship of gravity first. Okay, you first have to substantiate this thing as a real thing in the first place before you can start making ad hoc assertions that you're even going to be able to manipulate what it is, because you don't understand what it fucking is yet, you retard. You don't get that.
We've already proved that gravity is the phenomenon that we observe. It's
Not what
an
you're
observed
attributing it
phenomenon.
to. You're on about the warping and bending of space-time. You're showing it
No,
as the
it's
warping and bending of space-time, not the unilateral falling rate. You know, does the rate of mass that falls through the universe, are they falling at 9.8 meters per second? No, they're not. That's
Yes,
not
they
attributed,
are.
is it?
Everywhere,
No,
everywhere in the
no, they're
universe,
not. No,
everything.
because
Yes, it
you'd
is.
have to assert that the whole
That's
thing
true.
is falling at that rate.
It's
Things
true.
are in orbit adhering to different vectors and different speeds than that, right?
Nope.
As well. So two things at the same time cannot be true. This is why I say you
No.
say space is
No.
physical, but you're actually lying and
Everything.
you're wrong. Right?
Everything
No, Brenda,
in the
this is
universe
nonsensical.
falls.
It's ridiculous. Prove the cause and effect relationship first before you start asserting that you can prescribe what gravity is and effect is going to do in the format of warping or bending space
Except that we
in order to
can.
cause redshift. You cannot assert
we
that
can, and we
bullshit
did.
at
We
all
did.
because you don't know the cause and effect relationship of gravity first to know exactly what's happening with the effects and how it's caused. You can't assert that shit, Brenda.
Yes, I
Unfortunately.
can, because we
No, you
already
can't. You're wrong.
know. We already know.
Uh-huh.
We already know that gravity is the observed phenomenon. We already know that. And we know
just
how
not
it's described.
understanding it.
And we know how it's described by Newton's laws. And then we have a theory created
some
by
of which
Einstein,
are
a theory that makes predictions that turn out to be correct.
it's backward engineering, Brenda.
No, that's how science is done. You have an observed phenomenon, right? Then you make observations about that, and from
Yeah,
those
you don't need to tell
observations,
me.
from those observations, you propose a theory to explain them, and then the theory makes predictions, and then you look
you test
for
the hypothesis.
confirmation.
I understand that.
You
Yeah,
look
the
for
theory. You're right.
confirmations of the
Listen,
theory, and the
no, the
more that you
theory
can
is built
find.
upon after you've done the experimentation. You test the
Yes,
hypothesis with the experiment. Listen, you test the hypothesis with this experimental framework. Once you have done that, once you have proven a cause and effect relationship, then maybe you can start to build some format of a theory that extends beyond
but
what you've just
people did
found
that.
in your
People did that.
findings.
Newton and
Yeah, but you just
Galileo
said
did
it
that.
backwards.
Newton and Galileo did that. They did that.
Yeah, I can see why
They
people
laid the
need
foundation for Einstein to come along. Like Einstein said, if I have done anything, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Einstein came along and came up with a theory to explain the observations made by Galileo and Newton. And the theory makes predictions, and those predictions are very accurate. And every time we see a confirmation of relativity, that makes us more secure, more confident that it's true.
Brenda, 1,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, for instance, people could have quite easily fucking ascribed that, they could have quite easily asserted that things falling, right? Things fall, right? When you let go of them, when the last
Yes,
fibers
you're
on
right.
the branch, for instance, that holds the fruit,
You're
loses its,
absolutely correct. You're
loses its
absolutely correct.
ability to hold on to the fruit anymore, and it drops, right? People very long ago could have ascribed that as an effect caused by some form of warping and bending of space-time, all of these different things, right? Okay. Unfortunately, Brenda, this framework, again, you're the one that needs it, because you are the one who lives in a paradigm, right, where if things didn't fall down and there wasn't some force, or should I say, not a force, because it's not really been described as a force, not for a long time anyway, but you're the one who needs a vector of down all the way across the space of a spherical ball. Because for you, it's ridiculous that things, if there wasn't this thing called gravity, things would just fall in every which way. They would fall up, for instance, right? But the point is it's just not needed. It isn't needed. These things falling down, right? I could describe relative density as, that's not a full explanation either. But that could be part of the reason. And with relative density, I can manipulate a lot more. I can manipulate the vector of things and how they fall, for instance. I can change their vector mid-flight if I manipulate the medium,
Yeah.
right? If I change the density of the air, I can actually, if I manipulate the medium again, I can change the fall rate, for instance, right? This uniform rate of things falling again isn't even exactly uniform unless inside of a vacuum chamber, something that none of us actually experience in the everyday world.
It's always uniform. It's always uniform.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it actually is.
Okay, so
Right.
if I drop feathers and a bowling ball from 120 feet, what will hit the ground first, Brenda?
Oh, the bowling ball will, but that's because of air
Well, yeah.
resistance.
But that's the point, right? That's because of the
That's
medium,
irrelevant.
right?
It's irrelevant.
No, it's not. I'm saying that I can manipulate the medium, okay, and I can take it away. Now the bowling ball
So
and
how's
the
that
feather
relevant
hit
to
at the same
anything?
time. The bowling ball and the feather hit at the same time. I now could ascribe. Listen, there's just as much proof that relative density is making these things fall at a uniform rate, as opposed to that. Because now I could say, well, I've manipulated the medium and I've removed the wind resistance, so therefore both things fall at a uniform rate. But this is
Okay.
like circular
All right.
logic almost, right?
All right.
That relative density
So can I
causes
ask a
density and
question?
causes relative density. This is the same way as your way of
You're
thinking,
spiraling.
isn't
So
it?
can I ask a question?
No,
So
you are.
which is more dense and less dense, the feather or the bowling ball?
That's non sequitur, mate.
It's a question. It's not a statement. It's a question.
It's non sequitur. It's non sequitur.
What's the
Brenda.
non sequitur about asking whether a feather is more dense than
Because
the
we've
bowling
just
ball?
stated why the feather. Have we not just stated why the feather isn't falling at a uniform rate? Wind resistance, right?
When you just said that when you take out the air, it does fall at the same speed as the bowling ball.
Yes. And I'm asserting that I have manipulated more than you have in this form of test. So what I'm trying to say is that there's actually what I have manipulated, right, is actually of a much higher, there's a higher amount of manipulation than what you could ascribe to gravity when you're talking about cause and effect relationships. And I'm not even asserting that things fall down because of relative density, right? I was saying that relative density and the things in between, the medium itself, right, and how dense things are, their wind resistance, this is what affects this uniform rate of falling, okay? Things do not always fall at a uniform rate because you said they do.
But they
So I
do.
stated the feather does not. And
But-
I'm saying that there's the same amount of proof that relative density itself is the cause of things falling as there is for gravity. Yet there's more that I can manipulate within inside of that paradigm than gravity. Yet you want to assert gravity is completely true, even though you can't show any cause or effect or any experiment that's done with it other than you picking something up yourself and adding inertia or energy to it, and thus dropping it, and thus it falls. Well, that's
so if
obvious.
it's so if it's relative density, how come the feather and the
Did I say
bowling
it was
ball?
relative density?
Yes, you did. You just spent a
Did
couple
I?
minutes
No, I
explaining
didn't.
that it was.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. You weren't
You
listening
didn't
to a
spend
word
the
I said
last
then.
5 minutes explaining how relative density explains it.
No, I stated that there would be a higher proof in your paradigm for relative density, even though it's circular logic that relative density causes this uniform rate of falling, right?
Well, if it's
If you listen to
circular,
what I'm
if it's circular,
saying,
then it's false. All circular arguments are false.
yeah, like yours,
Mine
exactly.
isn't
That's my
circular.
point.
Mine isn't
Yeah,
circular.
it is.
No,
It
show
is,
me how
Brendan.
it's circular.
The effect, right? Gravity is apparently unequivocally true. The effect that we see, the naturally observed phenomena, is things fall. Well, they don't fall on their own. First, they have to have energy put into them, but still, we'll describe this
No, they
as
don't have to have
gravity.
energy put into them.
And the cause of the effect of gravity is the warping and bending of space-time from mass
No,
being.
that's not my. You're
Listen,
misrepresenting. You're straw manning me. Gravity
no, I'm not.
isn't that, right?
Why do you
Gravity
keep talking
is the
over me as well when
observed.
I was speaking?
Gravity
Why
is
are
the
you talking
observed
over?
natural
Brendan, shut the
phenomenon.
fuck up. If you talk over me again, I'm literally just going to mute you. So don't stop doing that shit. Now spout your bullshit.
Okay, so gravity is the observed natural phenomenon, right? For which we have a number of laws from Galileo and Newton, and who then later Einstein developed a theory. And I'm saying
I
that
know, you
theory,
said this about 10 minutes ago, didn't you?
yes, yes, and then that theory
Yeah.
makes predictions, and those predictions come true, which leads us to be very confident that relativity is true.
It's not us though, is it, Brenda? It's you. You're the one asserting that it leads us to be
Well, yeah,
confident.
it's me.
You know, this
You're
is the
right.
point. There are many people that aren't confident about this
No,
because they've looked at it.
no,
Yes. Why are you
it's only a
talking
couple.
over me? Right.
I'm
Fuck you,
sorry.
Brenda.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are now. Shut your mouth. Stupid bitch. Literally every time I fucking go to speak, this talk's over. Right. You need to stop doing that.
Yeah, I apologized. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were saying like I'm sorry, as in like, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna carry on talking. I don't know. Yeah, the British thing.
Right. So we know that gravity is real. It's an observed phenomenon. And then we have theories about it. That's how science is done. And density doesn't explain anything because density can't give anything a vector. It's just
Well,
density.
I actually can. I can change the vector of something with density, believe it or not. Might not give it the vector, but I can change the vector with it. So what do you say to that? And I can tell you how it works if you want.
Yeah, I can change the vector of a baseball by hitting it with a bat.
No, I'm on about changing it mid-flight.
Yeah, I can do the same thing with a bat. I can hit it.
No, mid-flight without interacting with it with a bat. I'm on about with density. You're on about the vector. Can't change the
Yeah, you
vector.
interact with the medium,
So,
though.
well, no, the medium, you know, is what it is, but I don't need to interact with the medium whatsoever.
Oh, really? How so?
No, I can just put energy into it,
I'm confused now.
which isn't me. That's not me physically touching it. I can put energy into it, for instance. How
I'm
much the vector will be changed, however, it will still be a change of vector.
I'm having a hard
The
time
amount of which I
understanding.
can't tell you.
I'm
Well,
having
let's
a hard
say
time
so.
understanding.
Are you familiar with, let's say, like any of Gay Lucas's gas laws?
What?
Are you familiar with Gay Lucas's gas laws?
No, I'm not.
So basically, what it states is that, right, so energy input, for instance. So it's the exact opposite of Charles's law. So Charles's law, do you know what that is? Charles's gas law?
No, I don't.
So if I have a balloon, for instance, and I apply a lot of cold temperature to it, it will appear to shrink as if the gases are no longer in there. All that's happening is they're becoming less excited and they're not hitting off of the sides of the container as much, right?
Are you
Do you
talking
understand?
about the gas laws, Charles's gas laws?
Yes, Charles's law.
And so, what do
There's
you do
actually,
to it?
so I was simply stating that Gay Lucas's gas laws, it's opposite. It's the opposite almost of Charles's law. So Charles's law, just in that phraseology exactly, is what was observed and tested by Charles, which is that he applied cold temperatures to a balloon filled with gas, and the balloon appeared to shrink as the gas particles became less excited by the input of that energy form.
Yeah, that's
Right?
you manipulating it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just stating something. Wait there. So again, right? So this is about changing the vector via manipulation. Again, we can change
Yeah.
the speed as well by manipulation. And I'm stating that obviously you can not change anywhere near as much in terms of any experimentation with gravity. You can't manipulate any variable to
Sure
prove
you
it.
can.
Not to the standard of the scientific method. You can't
Yeah,
prove
yeah, you
gravity,
can.
which
Yeah, you
well,
can.
you haven't, and I've asked you to do
Yeah, we
so, but
have.
I'm not finished. So you're not gonna. I'm not finished. I'm explaining what I was explaining originally, is that I can essentially, and I'm not asserting that relative density, because that is circular logic. The idea that relative density is what causes the uniform rate of fall. I understand that.
You
I
mean
would state
specific
that.
gravity, that right? You mean specific gravity.
No, I don't mean specific gravity
Well,
at
that's
all.
what relative density is. It's specific gravity.
That's what. No, relative density is relative density. Things that
No,
are
it's
dense.
specific gravity.
No, it is. Well,
It
that's what
is.
you want to call it. That's
That's
up
what
to you.
everybody
But
calls it. That's what everybody calls it.
cool, mate. I was actually explaining something, but yeah. So I'm simply stating, yeah, Brenda, that I can change the vector of fall using density, right? So gravity has a vector, and I'm saying that these things neither prove or disprove the other. But your rationale and way of thinking is things of much lesser value prove much more. So I can, let's say, use the sun, for instance, right, to shine on the outside of like a big hut, right, that is filled with just normal atmosphere, and it's sort of shining specifically at the angle where the way I know the path of the sun is that day. I'm going to move it so that it only sort of shines on, one side of the steel drum, and thus as well, I'm going to apply ice to the upper side. So the sun is shining on the north side of the drum at the base, and from the top going down, almost like in a diagonal, right? And then I'm applying the ice on the south side at the top. So I've unexcited the gas particles that are higher up, the molecules, whatever you want to call it. And then I've de-excited them higher up, and I've excited them lower down. And when these things fall, the vector of which will change ever so slightly due to this, right? This is the point.
What
I'm
is the point?
manipulating much more of the. I'm manipulating the medium, right? And I'm changing things
Yeah,
rate of fall.
we can manipulate gravity too.
I'm changing the vector of fall. I'm
We can.
changing two
Yeah.
things inside of that test. Point is it's not going to prove some baseless ad hoc assertion like what you are with gravity, that you see the effect of things falling that you have picked up, and that because predicted that things fall at 9.8 meters a second. No, you have seen something fall at 9.8 meters a second, and then asserted that gravity is the cause of that effect, and named the effect gravity, while at the same time asserting that gravity also does many other things, while asserting that gravity comes from a expression of a concept of space and time given physical properties by your deluded mind into being something that is the cause of the effect of the thing called gravity, and that is also caused by the mass, when you probably couldn't even give me the description of what mass exactly is,
I
right?
can. Yes, I can. Yes.
Yeah, all right, of course you can, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So, yeah, of course, and you probably would assert that, fucking quarks exist as well, but,
No, no, not quarks.
unequivocally.
No.
But,
So
yeah, so,
we can manipulate
again,
gravity. We can manipulate gravity.
okay.
Right. So in the Cavendish experiment, the way you manipulate gravity.
Shut up. Listen, unless you've done it, listen, that experiment was nothing to do with gravity to start with, so I don't even know why you're invoking his name.
That's not true.
All right.
He measured the
Well,
gravitational
it kind of
constant.
is. Well, yeah, okay. So he measured that in order to apparently measure the weight, right?
Yes, yes,
The
he did.
volume of the Earth.
You betcha.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and
So
he did that by varying gravity.
no.
Yes, by moving the two weights closer together and further away, you are manipulating the force of attraction between the two weights, thus manipulating
He
gravity.
didn't even listen, Brendan. He didn't even exclude for electrostatics. And don't tell me
Yeah,
I'm
he did.
presuming
Yeah,
that
he
he
did.
didn't do it.
Yeah,
No,
he
he
did
didn't.
exclude.
Read his paper. He doesn't state anywhere in his paper that
The
he did
balls
that.
are made out of
Sorry.
lead. Lead is not electrical. The balls are made out of lead.
It's not electromagnetic. It's not electromagnetic, but all things inherently have a permeability to electrostatics. Electrostatics being a much stronger force than gravity, right? Which is provable. Unfortunately for you, he didn't do anything to exclude from it. Many people in the future have asserted that they did. Also, to prove that the Cavendish experiment would work, you'd need the exact same uniform rate of acceleration of the two masses in a circuit experiment. So the masses of those masses, and I'm not on about, yeah, he went through different materials, I understand this. The masses would have to be sets, let's say, of 3 to 5 different masses, the same size, and then you would have to apply them to the torsion bar, and then once you had done that, you would have to time the accelerational rate of the masses coming together, do it for each mass, and then keep doing it again and get the same times every single time for it to be a constant. This has not been done.
That's what they do.
Unfortunately.
That's what
No, they
students
don't.
do.
No,
That's
the
what
times are
students
different every single
do
fucking time, Brenda, for each set. You know
every
it.
year in universities, thousands of universities around this
I've done it
globe.
myself. I've done it myself. Yeah, I know.
You've done the Cavendish
Done it
yourself?
myself. Yep.
Do you have any
Mhm.
documentation and video of you conducting the Cavendish?
Did it at school. Did it at school. We didn't have cameras or documentation. They didn't give us any of that.
So you had equipment?
Yeah. We did it
Right.
with our science teacher.
Right. So you're aware then that this is done all the time in schools all around the world.
Yeah, and the results are shaky at best. Even
Well,
our
maybe
results.
for you,
So
but not
listen,
for
listen,
others.
no. We did our results right, and unfortunately, we didn't have the same acceleration rate when we repeated the same sets of mass that we just put through. Same material again, same mass, right? The accelerational rate towards the conformity of those two things coalescing to meet, right? Those rates were not uniform. It didn't happen the same
Right.
speed
Right.
every
So
single
what you
time.
do is you do multiple experiments and then do an average.
Yeah, we did, and
Yeah,
there shouldn't
yeah.
be an average.
Why shouldn't there be an average?
It should be a uniform rate. The masses are
Why?
the same thing, only within the same size of the mass.
But there's always degrees of error in any instrument, and the Cavendish is an instrument.
because the cause isn't gravity.
No, that doesn't follow.
Well, it's mass attracting mass, is it not?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a uniform acceleration rate of mass attracting
Well,
towards
the
mass, right?
fact that
Well, do things not fall at 9.8 meters per second per second?
Yes.
All things, regardless of density,
Yes.
right? But now you're asserting that things of different densities should have a uniform rate of acceleration, shouldn't have a
No, I'm
uniform rate of
asserting.
acceleration towards one another. This is why your bullshit gets caught out every time. It's ridiculous, Brenda. It proves nothing. It's a different effect to what gravity apparently causes. I'm not saying it should even be 9.8 meters per second, but according to you guys, it should be, because the universe is bending and warping space time at that same rate, right?
Yeah.
So do you not see how this is not the same thing? It's not the same effect, is it, Brenda?
Your experimental
Not, is it?
setup. Your experimental setup will always have errors. It will always be like you always need to add error
Error
bars.
to the degree when you put heavier masses on it, the balls coalesce and meet at a quicker pace. When apparently it's gravity that's the cause, but apparently it's actually the cause of the rate of it increasing is by increasing the mass. Oh, I thought all masses fall according to the effect of gravity at the same
do.
uniform rate. Why
They
don't we
do.
see that, Brenda?
They do.
They don't. They don't.
Yeah, they do.
And
The
they're
fact
not.
that
I'm
you
not.
saw
And
air-
listen.
the
And they're
fact
not
that you
falling down. They're not falling down. So I'm not ascribing 9.8 meters per second. But I'm stating that all masses should coalesce and come together, even on the torsion bar, at a uniform rate.
and
we
do.
don't even see that between the same
do.
sets of mass.
But the
No,
fact
they
that
don't.
your experimental setup is going to
Cited.
have errors, and you're going to get it's going to be imprecise.
Oh, unlucky. So it doesn't prove anything,
That's not true.
does it? You
If
just
I
admitted
have-
it's imprecise. Wait there. Wait there. Are two things verified and imprecise at the same time, Brenda?
Yes.
No.
Within-
No. You can't
yes.
verify shit with imprecise.
Yes, you can.
If you can, no, you fucking can't. You're so full of shit.
imagine
It's unreal.
I go to a butcher and I want 1 pound of,
I'm
of
imagining,
cold cuts,
Brenda. I'm
I
imagining
take
that you're
it-
going to shut up.
and then I take that.
I'm done with that. You're fucking ridiculous. And I've got to go anyway. If someone else wants to debate you, they can, unmute you or some shit, but I ain't debating with you. You're fucking retarded. I'm sorry, I don't actually mean you are the R word. I just mean your logic, your way of thinking, not you. Englishism.
So did you want me to leave? Because you unmuted me.
Oh, Brenda, you're just not willing to, concede on anything.
Right, because I'm right and you're wrong. Well, it's
No.
it's an objective fact. It isn't even up to me. It's the world disagrees with you. The universe disagrees with you.
Oh, fuck's sake, wait there. Sorry, the live stream just got...
Oh, but if you want me to go, I'll just go. Just tell me to go and I will.
I just accidentally disconnected the live stream bot when I tried to move it up.
Oh, whatever.